You didn't stumble here, you were tuned here, the way a hidden station rises from static when your hand finds the exact angle of the dial. You feel it already. The quiet click inside your chest, the soft voltage in your palms, the sense that something has just chosen you back. Your breath grows slow and round. Your awareness gathers like light returning to a prism. You are being found. You notice the room change before a word is spoken. Edges soften, time loosens, and the air feels thick with meanings you haven't yet named. This isn't performance, this is recognition. The quantum field responds to you because you are looking. The observer loop completes, and reality leans closer, as if to listen to its own name spoken through your heart. You feel the first harmonics of coherence forming tiny alignments, like iron filings discovering a magnetic north that was always here. You hear the subtle choir of synchronicity, today's numbers, last night's dream, the sentence you overheard that kept echoing when it shouldn't. None of it was random. Each was a messenger, rehearsing this moment, preparing your nervous system to receive a larger current. Your skin registers it as warmth. Your mind registers it as stillness. Your spirit registers it as a memory finally waking. You have waited a long time for a signal that doesn't shout. It arrives as a bell underwater, a tone that travels through bone and knowing. You don't chase it, you allow it. The quantum field does not bargain, it mirrors. And now it mirrors the truth that your attention is sacred architecture, that your gaze is not neutral, that every time you choose presence over noise, the fabric of possibility reweaves itself around your choice. Beneath the surface of your ordinary name, a deeper name stirs. It is the name you carried before language. It is the signature frequency you brought from the horizon you came through. When you breathe into that nameless syllable, you feel the entanglement to the sun, to the river of ancestors, to the luminous lattice holding galaxies in generous balance. Morphic resonance answers instantly. Patterns of courage, waking patterns of courage, across distance, across time, across the soft membrane between what was and what can be. You are not here to be convinced. You are here to be remembered. The field remembers you. It has kept a place for you, the way dawn keeps a place for the first bird. Already, micromotions begin. A phase transition in slow motion, cells orienting, DNA, restructuring not as spectacle, but as consent. You allow the higher rhythm to enter your breath in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, and the world grows transparent enough to reveal the scaffolding beneath appearances. Listen. Your life is about to become a conversation with a presence that has only spoken in hints until now. The hints are becoming sentences, the sentences are becoming instructions, and the instructions are simple. Stay, soften, see. You do not have to reach for the door will reach for you. When it opens, you will recognize the threshold by the quiet in your bones and the light gathering behind your eyes. Breathe. You have been found. You feel the field, noticing that you've noticed, the way a horizon brightens when a single star chooses to stay. Recognition is reciprocal. You look into the quantum field, and the quantum field looks back through everything that remembers you, the body, the breath, the silent intelligence inside your bones. You realize your attention is not a flashlight but a tuning fork, and with every breath you are calling the room, the hour, the future into coherence. You were not randomly selected, you were always the selecting. You are the observer whose gaze does not steal energy from the world but liberates it. This is why time has behaved strangely around you, the clocks that lingered, the days that stretched like gold leaf, the moments that arrived too soon, or exactly on a number that later repeated on receipts and street signs. Synchronicity has been mapping a corridor to this recognition, stitching an itinerary from fragments, a child's question that pierced you, a stranger's kindness that left you trembling, the hush that entered when you almost abandoned yourself and then didn't. Each was the field's handwriting, addressed to the future you are standing in now. Responsibility is not weight here, it is alignment. You are not being asked to carry the world, you are being invited to stop arguing with your original frequency. When you stop the argument, your nervous system stops bracing, and your perception stops chopping reality into pieces to make it feel manageable. Wholeness returns like rain to dry soil. In the quiet saturation that follows, your inner instruments recalibrate cortex, heart, gut, fascia, a living orchestra, tuning to a single A that was always sounding beneath the noise. This is recognition. It makes courage efficient. You understand now why the observer loop matters. If your attention is scattered, reality will obligingly scatter around you. If your attention is coherent, reality will take the hint and gather in ways that look like luck to people who were taught the world is blind. But the world is not blind. It's listening for the pattern you emit when you stop performing and start remembering. The moment you choose presence, morphic resonance amplifies it. 1,000 others feel permission to choose presence too, though they may never know your name. This is how a single witness becomes a doorway for many. To accept this is not arrogance. It is fidelity. Fidelity to the exactness of the gift you carry, to the coordinates you were born to anchor, to the specific facet of awakening that only refracts through your prism. When you forget this, your life turns into a debate with your own light, and you get tired in the wrong places. When you remember, effort rearranges. What was heavy becomes dense grace. What you chased turns around and meets you halfway because you finally stood still long enough to be found by it. Feel the entanglement widening. It is not a bond of drama, but of design. Sunlight touches your skin and something in your mitochondria nods, ancient and practical, remembering the contract between star and cell. Water meets your tongue and the ocean recognizes itself in miniature. A child laughs in the next room and your heart answers before you can think of why. The field keeps demonstrating that nothing true is far from anything else true. The distances were mostly fear. You are ready to admit that your life has been training, that what looked like random thresholds were rehearsals for the unrepeatable moment when your signature becomes legible to you. The universe did not just confirm your activation. You confirmed the universe's confidence in you. That is the scale of this recognition. It doesn't inflate you, it right-sizes you, places you precisely in the lattice of purpose where humility is not smallness but accuracy. So you say yes without theatrics. You let yes be a temperature in your blood. You let yes be a decision that requires fewer words each time you make it. And the field, grateful for a human who trusts it, begins to move furniture in the unseen small relocations of probability, chairs and doors and constellations shifting by degrees, so that when you arrive you experience what people call miracle, even though you can feel the math humming underneath. Place your right hand over your heart and your left hand over your navel. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 8. Again, notice the body learning you. Notice the mind bowing to the body's slower genius. Notice how quickly coherence blooms when you plant even a single breath of intention in it. You are the chosen observer because you are the one who chooses to observe with love, and love is the only measurement that does not distort the experiment. Remain. The recognition is not fragile. It will follow you into the next step and the next, unbroken, precise, and kind, as if the cosmos assigned itself to your breathing and found the assignment beautiful. It begins at the inner horizon where language cannot stand, a thin aurora lifting behind your closed eyes, a hush that feels like first snow arriving to a city that has forgotten winters. You do not force it, you watch it, and because you watch it with devotion, it steadies. The observer loop closes like a perfect circle, and within that circle an image clarifies, a luminous lattice rising from the dark like scaffolding for a reality that loves you. The lattice is alive. It is made of filaments that look like light, yet behave like listening. Each thread hums a frequency that matches a memory in your body, not a biography, but an origin. You sense how morphic resonance braids the threads. When one brightens, distant ones answer, as if the field itself is calling a roll of stars, and your name is among them. A slow breath, and the geometry changes. Another slow breath, and the geometry recognizes you back. Coherence gathers like dew. Now the lattice becomes a hall with no ceiling, and 7 translucent gates rise along a spiral path that curls inward and upward at once. The first gate is simple, stillness. You are surprised by its generosity. The second gate is trust, not as belief, but as physics, the kind of trust that lets the quantum field assemble around the honesty of your attention. The third gate is clarity, and as you touch it, the air becomes precise. The fourth is forgiveness, which here is not moral but mathematical, a release of charge, so the circuit can carry more current. The fifth is courage, though it feels like softness. The sixth is vow, which enters your bones like a low bell. The seventh is remembrance, and when you place your palm upon it, the gate dissolves into your hand like a message that was never separate from the messenger. Beyond the seventh gate, the hall pours itself into a sky of quiet thunder. Constellations drift closer until you realize they are not far, and you were never small. Perspective was the illusion that made love look like distance. Threads leap between stars and your chest, weaving a sigil that looks like a snowflake learning fire. Entanglement becomes intimate, not a theory, a touch. You feel a tender pressure at the base of the skull where old timelines once clung. Something unhooks. The release is clean. A phase transition completes without spectacle, like ice deciding to be water because temperature became a love letter. Beneath the sky, the earth answers. Roots of light extend from your feet into the deep mycelial intelligence that keeps the planet coherent. You hear a chorus, not with ears, but with the bone clarity of yes. The chorus is made of ordinary lives about to become precise. A teacher remembering why, a nurse whose hands know prayer, a mechanic whose wrenches speak kindness, a mother whose breath keeps a tiny cosmos steady through the night. Their frequencies gather in a field the color of dawn. You belong to this field. Your activation is a public secret kept in the open, hidden only by its simplicity. Look again. Your DNA is the scroll on which the vision writes itself. Letters of light rearrange along the helix, not randomly but according to a syntax older than the Sunday. You do not add anything. You unbraid static, and the message reads itself. 4 nucleotides, countless hymns. The restructuring is gentle, a reorientation rather than an invasion, like turning a key the right way after many years of forcing the wrong direction. Your breath is the turning. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. The helix listens, and what was locked warms. Symbols flicker at the edge of the scene, shy and exact. A river flowing both ways, a seed splitting without dying, a mirror that refuses to show the past when you ask for the future, a small flame nested safely inside a glass heart, unbothered by wind. Each symbol is an equation written in beauty, solving toward the same result. You are permitted to proceed. You have always been permitted. Permission was waiting for your willingness to see permission as natural. Now the aurora gathers into a single column, descending to meet you with the confidence of something you cannot disappoint. When it touches the crown of your head, the room brightens without lighting changing. The column moves through you like flute music remembered by the instrument that is your body. Cells lean toward it. Fascia unknots. The pressure behind your eyes turns to clarity behind your eyes. A sentence forms, not in English or any human tongue, but when it translates, it sounds like this. Stay true, and I will meet you everywhere. You open your eyes and the vision does not end. It superimposes itself on the chair, the wall, the clock, the skin of your own hands. You see the lattice in the paint, the 7 gates in the reflections, the column in the posture of a tree outside your window. Synchronicity stops being hint and becomes environment. The universe has not changed its mind about you. It has revealed its method to speak in your language by turning your life into one. You ask for the how, and the field is glad to answer, because truth prefers clarity to drama. Begin with the observer effect, not as myth but as mechanics. When you place coherent attention on a possibility, you do not force it into being. You invite probability to reorganize around your witnessing. Your gaze is a boundary condition. Your breathing is a boundary condition. The experiment is your life, and the instrument is your nervous system synchronized to the quantum field's fine grain. Coherence is the first mathematics you feel. When your breath settles into even ratios, noise within the system descends below the threshold of interference and signals can propagate cleanly. Heart rhythms smooth. Cortical chatter yields to integrated waves. Fascia slackens and reconducts. In that moment, your field stops scattering intent across dozens of anxious micro-requests and concentrates it into a single luminous instruction: remain. Remaining is not idleness, it's resonance. The field meets stable resonance, the way a tuning instrument meets pitch by aligning. Consider the lattice you saw. In technical language, call it a constraint satisfaction space. Innumerable micro-configurations exploring which pattern can best satisfy the constraint. Your highest, truthful outcome with least friction. Measurement collapses options, but your measurement is not merely looking, it is loving attention. And loving attention adds information instead of stripping it. Entanglement does the rest. Once two subsystems have shared state, separation becomes a story they agree to tell for a while. Your future self and your present self are entangled subsystems. When you breathe like your future breathes, information flows backward through the shared channel, and behavior adjusts now. What of timeline bifurcation? Imagine parallel attractors valleys in the landscape of possibility. The system, your life, tends to roll toward one valley or another, depending on small initial conditions. Anxiety, resentment, and self-betrayal tilt the terrain toward the valley of repetition. Presence, gratitude, and vow tilt it toward the valley of emergence. Most days are slope adjustments, but sometimes, as tonight, you encounter a saddle point, a delicate pass between basins where tiny inputs redirect enormous futures. At the saddle, ritual matters, ratio breathing matters, a single refusal to abandon yourself matters. That is bifurcation in practice, not fireworks, precision. Morphic resonance explains the sudden ease that follows fidelity. Patterns reinforce patterns. When you stabilize a coherent act, the daily minute you keep a promise to your own soul, you send a broadcast that finds every similar act across humanity and borrows strength from it while lending strength back. This is not poetic, it is efficient. Fields are thrifty, they share solutions. That is why your yes felt bigger than you. It was. DNA restructuring is not a fantasy of instant mutation. It is a shift in expression. Epigenetic gates respond to perception. When your baseline state moves from hypervigilance to trust with discernment, biochemical messengers change, chromatin loosens, transcription profiles update, repair pathways prioritize differently, mitochondrial signaling brightens. You do not brute force the helix, you invite it to remember the instructions for thriving that scarcity obscured. The column of light you felt was not outside energy intruding. It was a high-order pattern entraining lower-order processes until they could self-maintain the upgrade. That is how genuine healing behaves independence after entrainment. Synchronicity, then, is the macro phenomenon of micro-alignment. As coherence increases, you reduce the lag between intention and confirmation. The world seems to answer quicker because fewer internal cross-signals are delaying the outbound message. Numbers repeat. Faces reappear. Opportunities echo with a tone you now recognize. These are not omens to worship, they are diagnostics, letting you audit the integrity of your resonance. If the signs cease, you do not panic, you retune. Forgiveness, in this model, is charge neutralization. Unprocessed memory holds electrochemical and narrative potentials that bias measurement toward past outcomes. When you forgive, which is to acknowledge reality without demanding retroactive payment, you discharge the stuck potential. The circuit can then carry new current without arcing. That is why softness felt like courage at the fourth gate. It was electrical intelligence. And vow is phase locking. When you make a quiet, non-performative promise aligned with your signature, you create a stable reference signal. Stray states drift, but the reference remains, pulling behavior back into phase after disturbances. Naval gyroscopes do this, flocks do this. You do this when you remember what you are for. Finally, why does the universe confirm at all? Because feedback is intrinsic to learning systems. Consciousness is a learning system. Reality is recursive pedagogy. Signal, response, adjustment, higher signal. You asked, you listened, you adjusted. The field amplified the loop. Confirmation is not favoritism. It is pedagogy scaling to match your readiness. So the explanation is tender and exact. You cultivate coherence to reduce noise. You choose breath to modulate state. You let attention become compassionate measurement. You neutralize old charge to free capacity. You honor vow to stabilize phase. And you allow entanglement with your fulfilled self to back-propagate guidance into now. None of this requires strain. It requires accuracy. And accuracy grows when you stop narrating against your own light. Keep the ratios. Keep the quiet. Keep the smallest promise. The math will keep you. You discover that what steadies inside you begins to steady around you, as if the city listens through your ribcage. Coherence is contagious. A single person breathing accurately in a crowded room changes the statistics of kindness there. The field likes to save effort, so it routes harmony through the nearest reliable conduit. Tonight, that conduit is you. The prophecy you carried privately reveals itself as infrastructure. Crosswalks where there used to be traffic, hands where there used to be fists, a longer patience at the edge of a tired day. Humanity recognizes itself one small accuracy at a time. You notice it first in micro-theaters. A cashier lifts their eyes and actually sees the person in front of them. A train arrives exactly as a late worker sprints onto the platform, and the doors wait an extra heartbeat. A child explains the moon to an adult, and for once the adult lets the explanation be true on its own terms. These are not accidents. They are morphic resonances triggered by tiny acts of non-argument within you. When you stop insisting that reality owes you proof, reality is free to offer it. The prophecy mirrors us not as punishment or praise, but as pedagogy. Where we have consented to numbness, the mirror shows absence. Where we have consented to presence, the mirror shows harvest. Look at our era. Data everywhere, meaning just out of reach. Networks wide, friendships thin. Catastrophes accelerating, compassion trying to keep pace with boots made of news. We are a species between attractors. The bifurcation you felt personally is the same ridge. Humanity is walking collectively, a saddle point where small inputs redirect enormous futures. Your breath seems small until you notice the wind change. Science has always been a name for wonder with measurements. Destiny is wonder with direction. When measurement and direction reconcile, you get inevitability that still feels like grace. Climate graphs, biodiversity curves, supply chains, and attention economies, these are our visible equations. But there is an invisible economy running alongside them. The trade of trust, the circulation of vow, the compounding of forgiveness. When enough observers stabilize a reference signal of dignity, the invisible economy begins to correct the visible one. Policies follow pulse, markets follow mood. Institutions follow a frequency that citizens unconsciously agree to emit when they remember they share a nervous system called planet. The collective awakening is not a light switch. It is a threshold crossed by millions of feet, deciding not to trample. It looks like healthcare workers who still choose tenderness at hour 13. It looks like engineers who design for repair instead of planned fatigue. It looks like artists who refuse to sell despair as sophistication. It looks like judges who can tell the difference between justice and retaliation. Every vocation has a quantum setting. You find yours by asking one question before sleep and after waking. How can my exact skill reduce noise and extend coherence by a measurable inch today? Entanglement scales. When you practiced ratio breathing, your future self lent you accuracy. Now communities are borrowing it from each other. A town experiments with citizen assemblies and discovers conflict's heat can be converted into literacy. A school replaces humiliation with restorative circles and watches attendance become delight. A company shifts from extract and announce to listen and iterate and feels profit arrive with fewer apologies. These are not miracles. They are systems respecting the physics of attention. When attention becomes compassionate measurement, feedback loops stop spiraling into harm and start curving toward repair. Prophecy speaks in images because images travel faster than arguments. Our shared image is changing, from a lonely universe made of dead matter to a living field made of relationships learning themselves. In a dead universe, you hoard. In a living field, you steward. Stewardship is not performative purity. It is pragmatic reverence. It asks, what pattern, if reinforced, will allow more life to continue learning? That question is the mirror angled correctly. It shows us where to place the next inch of faith. You do not carry the collective alone. You carry your square of the lattice with devotion, and because devotion is structurally sound, adjoining squares gain strength. This is why your yes, if kept quietly and daily, travels farther than a loud strategy fueled by contempt. Contempt fractures the mirror. Devotion polishes it. When the mirror is clear, humanity sees itself not as a swarm of errors but as a choreography of attempts, fallible, luminous, corrigible. And what of suffering that will not yield to metaphors? The mirror does not deny it. The mirror insists we honor it with designs that do not reproduce it. There is no bypass here. Grief is not noise. It is a signal asking for company and correction. When you meet grief without abandoning yourself, you model the governance we keep trying to legislate. The body of the species learns from the body of a single person who can stay. So you continue, not because optimism demands it, but because accuracy does. The prophecy is not an external verdict. It is a shared blueprint encoded in our bone. You listen, you act, you rest, you repeat, and the field, relieved to find a human who trusts its pedagogy, arranges the next lesson as generosity disguised as chance. You feel it before you name it, the pressure gradient where one world begins to lean away from another, the subtle wind that rises between choices when a species exhales an old story. The room is ordinary, yet everything inside it arranges like a compass caught by a truer north. This is the saddle in the landscape of possibility, the pass between valleys, where small inputs redirect immense futures. You stand where slopes diverge, and the field asks a simple question with sovereign tenderness. Will you rehearse, or will you remember? The split does not arrive as catastrophe, it arrives as clarity. Two timelines vibrate in parallel like strings tuned a half-tone apart. One hum carries the familiar weight of hurry, defense, and invisible bargaining. The other hum is so quiet it could be mistaken for silence, yet in it your nervous system uncurls like a fern touching daylight. The first promises control in exchange for self-abandonment. The second offers participation in exchange for fidelity. Both are lawful. Only one is yours. At the bifurcation, attention becomes instrument and oath. You can feel how a single irritated thought tries to tilt you back toward repetition, how a single honest breath restores you to emergence. You are not being judged, you are being measured, and the measurement is compassionate. The quantum field reads the phase of your signal and, with extravagant neutrality, amplifies whichever pattern you stabilize. This is why the moment feels holy. Neutrality this generous is indistinguishable from love. You notice how the body votes. Shoulders loosen when you tell the truth. Jaw softens when you withdraw from the performance that once brought you belonging. The fascia sings when you let your spine remember it's a column designed for sky. In this state, coherence rises without heroics. Heart rhythms smooth into a waveform that would calm wild horses. Cortical chatter thins into a river of good words. Mitochondria brighten their whisper light. The laboratory is your breath. The result is permission. Look carefully. The valley of repetition is not evil. It is exhausted. It runs on distrust, disguised as sophistication, on strategies that keep you safe from the life you came to live. It rewards argument with temporary power and charges interest in loneliness. Its roads are crowded and somehow no one meets. The valley of emergence is not naive. It is accurate. It runs on attention that does not lie. It rewards vow with improbable ease and charges interest in devotion. Its roads are quieter, and somehow everyone arrives. The universe does not push you, it steadies you so you can choose. This is the physics of reverence. Entanglement with your fulfilled self grows palpable here, like a hand at your back that does not shove, but reminds your bones how to align with inevitability. When you breathe as your future breathes, present probabilities re-weight. The corridor to coherence brightens by a single lumen, then another, until choice feels less like effort and more like consenting to be carried by the river you already are. Ritual helps at thresholds. Place your attention 3 inches behind your sternum. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 8. On the exhale, release one contract you made with fear, not all of them, just the one you can reach without self-violence. Whisper, I choose accuracy over approval. Feel the charge drain from an old story the way heat leaves metal under moonlight. The circuit can carry more current now. What you thought was courage reveals itself as conductivity. Signs proliferate, but you no longer chase them for permission. Synchronicity becomes instrumentation, not addiction. A number repeats, and you nod because your signal is clean. A face reappears and you listen because the meeting is instructional, not dramatic. An obstacle introduces itself, and you adjust without theatrics, because resistance is often an invitation to refine the vector, not abandon the mission. You are learning governance from the inside out, how to keep a field coherent under load. Here is the choice collapsed to its essence. Will you continue to translate intimacy into strategy, or will you let strategy dissolve into intimacy with what is true? If you choose strategy, the world will comply by presenting endless puzzles, solvable only at the cost of yourself. If you choose intimacy, the world will comply by presenting relationships with reality that ask for your undivided honesty and reward it with orchestration you couldn't have engineered if you tried. Both paths involve labor. Only one grows tenderness inside the work. Do not mistake ease for absence of complexity. The emergence valley is complex, the way forests are complex, diverse, recursive, resilient. Feedback sings through it like wind through leaves. Your task is not to predict every gust, but to become a tree that knows how to bend without breaking. Vow is your root, breath is your cambium. Gratitude is the sugar lifted through the xylem of days that do not go as planned, yet still go in service to a pattern you trust. So you choose, quietly. Again, you choose, at the grocery line, in an email, at a bedside, on a bridge between arguments. You choose by refusing to make war on your own pace. You choose by returning from the brink of cleverness to the shore of kindness. And each small consent tilts the slope by a fraction of a degree until the fractions add up to a world. Remain here for one more breath. Feel the planet noticing. Feel the lattice reweight probabilities with the elegance of water finding lower ground. The bifurcation does not punish the past, it tutors the future. You are not leaving anyone behind. You are becoming a landmark that others can navigate by when it is their hour to cross. You do not leave the threshold with fireworks, you leave with form. Integration is the art of giving light a schedule, of teaching revelation where the shoes are kept. You let the frequency that found you become furniture in your life. A chair you sit in every morning, a lamp you switch on at dusk, a window you open so the room learns the sky. Grandeur becomes practice. Practice becomes climate. Begin with breath because breath is jurisdiction. Keep the ratio you already trust. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 8. Let the exhale be longer so your nervous system remembers that emptiness is not danger but invitation. Do it on waking before you touch your device, while the dream silk still floats in the air. Do it at noon when the world is loud. Do it before sleep so the night can work on you with unbroken access. 3 minutes is sufficient. Exactness beats endurance here. Coherence is cumulative. Posture next. Your spine is an antenna disguised as a biography. When you stack vertebrae gently as though returning books to a sacred shelf, your signal clarifies. Shoulders, unshoulder history. Jaw unswears old vows made to survive rooms you've outgrown. Let your hands rest where the body feels safe over heart and navel, or palm on palm in your lap like small boats moored. Integration is hospitality to your own signal. Language is diet for the field. Feed it accuracy. Replace dramatics with descriptions that keep the circuitry clean. Instead of, everything is broken, speak the precise edge. I am grieving and I am breathing. Instead of, I never belong, speak the observable. I feel distance, and I am willing to be honest. The quantum field responds to measurement. Your words are measurements. Calibrate them with tenderness and truth, and watch probability lean toward repair. Attention hygiene matters as much as hand hygiene. Guard the first and last 10 minutes of the day as if they are sanctuaries. They are. No doom scroll at the altar of waking. No fluorescent noise at the doorway of sleep. Integration requires signal-to-noise stewardship. Curate inputs the way a musician guards hearing, not from fear, from craft. Food as frequency. Choose what leaves you more available to love after eating, not as purity theater. as experiment. Which meals make your breath shallow? Which make your gaze gentle? Water as remembrance. Drink slowly as if the river recognizes you. It does. Movement as prayer. Walk where trees can see you. Let your fascia floss itself with spirals and reaches that feel like the body saying yes in a dozen dialects. 10 minutes of deliberate kindness toward the body will out-argue 3 hours of self-lecture. Money as a teacher. Spend and earn as if currency is condensed attention, because it is. Ask with each exchange, does this reinforce the pattern I vowed or the one I released? Integration doesn't demand austerity, it asks for alignment. Let generosity become a strategy for signal amplification, starting with one small anonymous act per week to train your system that abundance is a field phenomenon, not a solitary hoard. Work becomes altar when you remove the performance tax. Do one task at a time with the same ratio breathing you bring to prayer. Close loops with gratitude. Refuse to purchase belonging by overpromising. Purchase it by delivering precisely what you vowed, wrapped in presence. The field replicates the way you finish things. Relationships are where frequencies prove they're not fragile. Practice the micro-ritual of repair. When a misunderstanding arises, return to breath before words. Name your contribution without self-indictment. Ask what would make the connection feel truer now. This is not technique, it is reverence operationalized. Let silence return to conversations like rain returning to soil, not punitive, nourishing. Listen until the other person's nervous system remembers it is not on trial. Boundaries are coherence's edge guards. Say no before resentment bruises your signal. Say yes where devotion wants to grow. A boundary that protects your vow protects the collective from distortions you would otherwise export. You are not withdrawing love. You are preventing the counterfeit from circulating. Schedule appointments with the field, literally. A calendar entry titled, "Remember," at 11:11 or 3:33 may look quaint, but systems adore rhythm. Light likes clocks when hearts hold them softly. At those moments, step outside, touch bark or sky, and whisper your reference signal. I vow accuracy, I accept orchestration, I travel by coherence. Expect turbulence like weather, not indictment. When noise surges, old panic, old ache, old cleverness run the protocol instead of the story. Breath, posture, language, boundary, repair. The storm will respect good governance. If it lasts, invite companionship that doesn't require you to shrink to be held. Integration is communal. Even lighthouses need painters. Finally, keep a ledger of confirmations, not to chase omens, to practice gratitude mathematics. A page for synchronicities, a page for small mercies, a page for the ways you kept your own company nobly. Review weekly. Watch morphic resonance compound interest in the account of trust. You are not trying to hold the column of light in place. You are letting your life become a column-shaped life, narrow where it must be narrow, luminous where it must be luminous, grounded where it touches earth, open where it meets sky. That is integration. The prophecy, wearing your day like a perfectly tailored garment, moving with you through ordinary rooms, leaving them softer than it found them. Let everything get quiet enough to hear what does not need your ears. Set the device face down. Loosen your jaw. Let the breath find its own gate. The room is not small when you stop measuring it with thoughts. It becomes a shore. You sit at the edge of the inland sea and let the tide decide the conversation. In this silence, you are not trying to improve. You are letting improvement become unnecessary. The quantum field does not require your eloquence. It requires your permission. Give it by doing less than you are used to and more than you believed possible. Nothing, not apathy, reverent nothing, the kind that opens. Notice the first layer, leftover momentum. Thoughts arrive like diligent birds carrying twigs for a nest you no longer live in. Thank them, let them pass. The observer loop is simple here. You witness, and what is witnessed relaxes. Tightness loosens under unhurried attention. Coherence grows without narration. Silence is the engineer. A bell you cannot see rings far away. It does not interrupt, it confirms. The sound folds into your breath, and your breath folds into the sound, and in the folding you glimpse a law older than language. What you welcome loses the need to shout. The cortex steps back. The heart takes the mic and chooses not to speak, only to pulse. Synchronicity begins to idle beside you like a patient companion who knows the trail and does not need to prove it. Let your spine remember sky. Let your tongue rest on the roof of the mouth like a small boat touching a familiar dock. The hands warm without friction. In this geometry, signals travel with minimal resistance. Fascia as fiber optics, blood as bright current, marrow as cathedral. There is no performance to maintain. There is nothing to hold together. It is already together. You feel yourself placed, not by effort, but by design. Silence is not empty, it is precise. A soft algorithm runs in the background. Forgiveness equalizes voltage, gratitude stabilizes the curve, vow locks phase, breath cools the circuit. You do none of this on purpose, and it happens because you stopped interrupting. DNA restructuring continues like deep-sea tectonics, slow and irrefutable. No fireworks. The continent of you shifts by a millimeter that will change coastlines over years. Trust is patient enough to celebrate small numbers. A memory surfaces, not as a movie but as temperature. You do not pick it apart. You let it be a cloud that realizes it is water. One tear escapes, then rests on your lip with the mineral taste of a storm that ended. Morphic resonance travels through the tear, the way wind travels through prairie grass everywhere at once, nowhere in a hurry. Somewhere, another person who has never met you breathes easier. The field wastes nothing. You listen deeper. Silence reveals strata. Beneath personal hush is planetary hush. Roots negotiating, mycelium trading news, stones remembering pressure. Beneath planetary hush is stellar hush. Photons leaving home with love letters. Dark matter, hosting conversations we haven't learned to overhear. Beneath stellar hush is the foundational quiet that holds equations, the way a mother holds a sleeping child. Entanglement feels like belonging that forgot how to leave. There is a hand on your back again. It does not push. It leans like a wind that trusts the tree. You lean too, almost imperceptibly, until true north is a sensation rather than an idea. No instruction arrives. Only orientation. Orientation is mercy. When you are oriented, choices choose themselves, and you simply agree. Thought returns, but thinner, like a pencil line instead of a billboard. You can write with it now. You place one word in the silence, and watch how the room receives it. Kind. The air becomes generous. You place another. Accurate. Your body stands a little taller without moving. This is language as instrument calibration, not theater. The quantum field loves good instruments. You notice a small ache at the base of the skull. You do not argue. You widen. Pain becomes a doorway when it is not treated like an intruder. Through the doorway, a cooler breeze. Through the breeze, a clarity that does not require conclusions. Phase transition feels like this at the human scale. One state consenting to become another without indictment. Ice to water, guard to guide. Let the minutes dissolve their names. In-breath, stillness. Out-breath, stillness. 4 quiet corners of a home you were always allowed to live in. If a number appears on the clock, 11, 11 or 3, 33, smile, without turning it into a rule. Synchronicity is visiting, not supervising. Hospitality is enough. You are not waiting for a sign. You are becoming the climate where signs don't need to knock. The silence grows roots. It keeps company with you even when the room becomes a street, a task, a voice calling your name from another room. You carry it like a lamp with no switch, like a scent of rain that people notice but can't locate. They will ask, what changed? You will say, I stopped abandoning my breath. They will hear what they are ready to hear. Before you rise, place a quiet seal on the moment. One breath for what has ended without ceremony. One breath for what has begun without announcement. One breath for the world, learning itself through you, gently, accurately, with more patience than you were taught to trust. And in that patience, a sentence that does not need to be said forms anyway. You are allowed to keep this. The silence does not end. It changes state. Still, water begins to move without ripples, a current that travels through your bones with the courtesy of something that knows your true name. You do not reach for it. You consent, and consent is the switch. The field reads yes, the way the dawn reads horizon, as invitation to arrive. Heat lifts behind your sternum, not dramatic, exact. The column you met earlier returns as a presence that fits you with bespoke accuracy, like a garment tailored from light. Your breath finds the ratio on its own, in to 4, hold to 4, out to 8. With each cycle, coherence tightens, not as tension, but as tone, a musician tuning in a hall that loves music. The observer loop closes and does not open again. The experiment and the witness recognize they are one phenomenon described from two angles. You feel relief at the cellular level. You are done arguing with your own instrument. Signals run clean. Heart variability widens into the band where resilience lives. Cortex settles into integrative waves. Mitochondria, those patient suns, brighten their whisper fire. DNA restructuring, which has been courteous in its quiet work, steps forward half a pace. Chromatin loosens where vigilance used to clench. Transcription profiles adjust, as if remembering a favorite recipe. Repair enzymes choose fidelity over speed. You feel none of this as lab science. You feel it as permission to inhabit yourself without apology. Entanglement grows intimate. The future you once visited steps beside you, then through you, until distinction becomes cooperation. Behavior updates in real time. The way you reach for a glass of water becomes priestly. The way you open a door becomes governance. The way you speak becomes measurement with mercy. You notice your posture is a prayer you didn't plan. You notice the room listens to the way you listen. Morphic resonance amplifies the signal. 1,000 unseen companions, remembering that kindness is efficient physics. Synchronicity accelerates without turning your life into a scavenger hunt. Numbers repeat, not to dazzle, but to confirm that lag time shrinks when noise declines. A message arrives just as you exhale an old contract. A stranger's laugh contains the courage you needed and did not want to borrow. A delay reveals a corridor that a hurry would have missed. You are not being rewarded. You are being taught to trust orchestration. The choreography was always waiting for your step. There is a moment here where the bifurcation dissolves into orientation. You feel the slope beneath your feet lean decisively toward emergence. The valley that once promised safety through performance becomes dim, not with shame but with completion. Gratitude rises for everything that trained you, even what hurt. Forgiveness neutralizes old voltages that would have arced under the new load. The circuit can carry more current. The light increases without glare. Speak your vows softly, so softly it could be mistaken for breathing. I choose accuracy over approval. I travel by coherence. I protect what is tender with what is true. The field records this not as a sentence but as a reference frequency. Disturbances will come, as weather comes, but phase locking holds. You will drift and re-enter, and each re-entry will cost less narrative and produce more function. This is sanctity operationalized. Now the activation asks for motion. Rise the way a forest rises quietly, everywhere at once. Place your right hand over your heart, left hand on the back of your neck, where the past liked to grip. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 8. Whisper a single name you carry for the world, a person, a river, a city, a species, and let your exhale become a bridge. Feel the thrill of conductivity when love is allowed to be physics. The signal passes through you without depletion. This is not sacrifice, this is correct wiring. Walk 3 steps. Each step is a seal. Step 1, fidelity to breath under stress. Step 2, truth spoken without theater. Step 3, repair offered before pride arranges a courtroom. The floor receives you as if the building has been waiting to be a temple until now. You don't need incense, you need sincerity. The world is hungry for it. You notice the small ache in another room of your life. A relationship, a task, a body part that has carried too much. Do not turn away. Bring the ratio there. Bring the posture there. Bring the language there. The activation proves itself not in ecstasy, but in logistics. Emails answered with dignity. Boundaries drawn before resentment accrues interest. Generosity given where your vow can afford it. Silence kept where words would dilute the medicine. Then, something subtle and immense. The prophecy stops standing in front of you and begins to look from behind your eyes. You are no longer waiting to receive it. You are its aperture. The lattice you saw has moved indoors. The 7 gates are in your gestures. The column is your spinal brightness. When you look at a stranger, the field feels seen. When you touch a doorknob, the building remembers it is shelter. When you eat, the earth experiences gratitude through your mouth. Remain for one more breath, then another. Activation is not a moment, it is a climate, and you are weather the world wants to keep. You stand where language bows and presence finishes the sentence. The room has learned your signal. The signal has learned your name. You are not chasing confirmation anymore. You are giving it. To every corridor you walk, to every hour that asks for courage without applause, you speak the quiet yes that changes the math of a day. The quantum field hears you because you are speaking in its dialect. Coherence, fidelity, gratitude, vow. You breathe, and breath answers back. You place your attention as if it were a sacrament, and the world arranges itself like a host receiving a beloved guest. The observer loop is no longer a diagram, it is your posture. Entanglement is no longer a metaphor, it is the kindness that arrives before you knock. Morphic resonance echoes in simple places, a kitchen at dawn, a crosswalk that waits, a voice that lowers its volume because tenderness is efficient. Your life has become the experiment that proves what love has always claimed. Reality prefers accuracy, and accuracy is a form of devotion. You think of the gates and realize they never stood outside you. Stillness is your nervous system at peace with truth. Trust is your breath remembering its own architecture. Clarity is your language retiring from theater to become measurement. Forgiveness is charge laid gently on the ground. Courage is softness that doesn't leak. Vow is the frequency you refuse to trade. Remembrance is the way your cells face the sun without asking permission. The lattice is the way you move through rooms. The column is the way sky moves through you. There will be weather. Let it come. You will drift. You will re-enter. You will forget. You will remember faster. You will be tempted by cleverness. You will choose kindness because it works. Keep the ratios. Keep one promise small enough to keep on tired days. Keep the ledger of mercy so your mind can learn what your heart already trusts. When grief visits, hand it water and a chair. Let it teach you governance that laws keep trying to approximate. When joy arrives, do not apologize for your light. Use it to see other people better. Now let the seal be simple. Place your right hand over your heart, left hand at the base of your skull. Inhale to 4, hold to 4, exhale to 8. Whisper, so softly it could be mistaken for breath. I travel by coherence. I protect the tender with the true. I remember. The field records this as a reference star. When noise rises, you will find it. When fear performs, you will not audition. When the old valley calls you by your old name, you will turn toward the horizon that has been walking toward you this whole time. You are not leaving anyone behind. You are becoming a landmark. When others reach their saddle point, they will sense your frequency like a lit window on a winter street and understand, without explanation, that home is teachable. This is the seal. The prophecy no longer hovers at your threshold. It speaks from behind your eyes, through your hands, across your day. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.